Now we are at the bottom of page 14 in your notes. Once again, hopefully you're following along very carefully. I want to give you some practical suggestions now about prayer and intercession. And the first suggestion I want to give you is that you consider having a quarterly prayer revival in your church or your organization. Now you remember the story I told you about the two churches? Church number 2, the powerful church, does this. Every 3 months they have a week of fasting and prayer. They encourage all of their members to fast that week, and every night of that week they come together at the church building for an evening of prayer and intercession. Now that is a prayer revival, a week of fasting and prayer. A week where your people concentrate in praying for their lost loved ones. They pray for your church, for the vision of your church, for the new churches that you're planting, for the unreached people that you are reaching out to. They pray against the principalities and powers that have been controlling your country. See, that's a very good suggestion, and I want you to pray about that. All right, now let me give you 3 powerful specifics about how to pray. These are both for you individually and for you to teach your people. Here's the first thing. If you want to be powerful in prayer, you need to teach your people to pray specifically. Now write specifically in the appropriate blank. There's an interesting story in Mark chapter 10, verses 46 to 52, about the blind beggar Bartimaeus. You remember the story. Jesus was passing through Jericho, and there was this blind beggar who heard all of the commotion and asked somebody, "What's going on? What's happening here?" And they told him, "Jesus of Nazareth is passing through Jericho." What did Bartimaeus do? He began crying out to Jesus, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Some of the disciples tried to get him to hush, but he cried out even louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And you remember the story. Jesus invited him, and he asked him a very important question. He said, "Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you?" And Bartimaeus said, "Oh, I'm not sure. Just bless me. I want my life to be blessed." No. Jesus asked him a specific question, and he gave him a specific answer. He said, "Lord, I want to see. I want you to heal my eyes." See, that's one of the keys to effective prayer. How can you know whether or not God is answering a prayer unless you are asking Him to do something specific? So, in your own prayer, and again, as you teach your people to pray, teach them to pray specifically. For example, when they pray for their unsaved family, friends, and neighbors, they should call their names individually, not just pray in general. They should pray that God would shift the powers, as we said, the principalities, the evil forces that have been controlling your country. If possible, you need to name those powers and pray specifically against them. You need to ask God to do specific things about your church's vision. For example, if you're planting a new congregation, pray specifically for the area that church is being planted in, that God will draw these people to Him. When you have financial needs, don't just pray in general. Tell God how much money you need. You see, that's one of the real keys. When you pray for missionaries, pray for specific missionaries. When you pray for unreached people, don't just pray in general, pray for specific people. Whenever you have obstacles that you're facing, name those obstacles and ask God to work in those areas. See, that is really important in praying. Now, talking about these principalities and powers that rule a country, I remember one time I was pastoring a church and we had a group of people in the building and we were praying in that very vein for God to take down these powers that were controlling that area. And I remember as I was praying that God kind of gave me a vision, and I saw that the ceiling of the church was like brass. No grooves, no cracks in it, solid brass. But there were individual ropes hanging down. And in this vision, I saw people beginning to get those ropes and pull them down and yank on them. At first, nothing happened, but as the people yanked harder, I looked up and I saw cracks beginning to form. And as they yanked harder, I saw pieces of that brass begin to fall until the heavens were opened. Do you know that God wants to do that? All over the world. God wants to do that in your area, in your country. Just as the Koreans shifted those principalities, God wants you to do that. But one of the ways that you pray powerfully is by praying specifically.